I stood in the doorway of my childhood home on the afternoon of my 20th birthday, staring at a massive banner that read, "Happy 20th Birthday" in bold letters. Balloons covered every surface. The dining table overflowed with food. My heart swelled for maybe 3 seconds before my older brother Garrett walked through the back door, with that familiar smirk plastered across his face. He announced loudly that he wanted to celebrate turning 20 again since his actual party 3 years ago got ruined by rain. My parents smiled at him like he had just suggested the most reasonable thing in the world. They agreed instantly, already moving to take down decorations. Let me back up and explain something about my brother and me. Garrett is 3 years older, and from the moment I could form memories, he has been the center of our parents' universe. I am not exaggerating when I say that every significant moment in my life has been overshadowed by something related to him. When I graduated high school with honors, my parents spent the entire celebration dinner talking about Garrett's college graduation happening that same month. When I received a scholarship to community college for maintaining a perfect grade point average, they scheduled a family trip to celebrate Garrett's engagement the same weekend. I missed my own award ceremony because they insisted we all needed to be there for him. The pattern became so predictable that I stopped expecting anything different. But this year, I had specifically asked for something small. Just a quiet family dinner for my 20th birthday. Nothing elaborate. I told my mom Patricia exactly that when she asked what I wanted 2 months ago. She had smiled and said they would do something special. I should have known better than to trust that smile. I had spent the morning at my community college finishing up a physics exam. I was double majoring in astrophysics and mathematics, maintaining a 4.0 average while working part-time at the campus observatory. None of that mattered much to my parents, but it mattered to me. I loved the quiet nights spent cataloging stars, the precision of mathematical equations, the way the universe made sense even when my family did not. My girlfriend Emma picked me up after class. We had been dating for 8 months, and she was one of the few people who truly understood how complicated my family situation was. She had witnessed enough holiday dinners and family gatherings to see the dynamic clearly. As we pulled into my parents' driveway, I noticed an unusual number of cars lining the street. Emma gave me a concerned look. I thought maybe my parents had invited a few relatives despite my request for something low-key. I could handle that. We walked up to the front door, and I could hear music and voices inside. When I opened it, I was genuinely stunned. The entire house had been transformed. Streamers hung from every doorway. A professional banner stretched across the living room wall. Tables covered with food lined the kitchen counters. My mother rushed over wearing a dress I had never seen before, her makeup perfectly done. My father Richard appeared behind her in a button-down shirt, grinning widely. For just a moment, I felt seen. I felt like maybe they had actually planned something for me. My chest tightened, with an emotion I had not allowed myself to feel in years. Hope. Then Garrett walked in from the backyard, carrying a beer, and everything made sense in the worst possible way. He looked at the banner, looked at our parents, and said casually, "You know what? I want to celebrate my 20th again. That camping trip party was a total wash because of the storm. I never got a real celebration." He said it like he was commenting on the weather, not hijacking his younger brother's birthday. My mother did not even hesitate. She turned to my father and said, "Oh, that's a wonderful idea. We can celebrate both boys." My father nodded enthusiastically, already walking toward the banner like he was about to take it down. I stood there holding the gift bag Emma had given me in the car, watching my parents literally peel astronomy-themed decorations off the walls. I had mentioned months ago that I loved the Cassini mission to Saturn. Someone had actually found decorations with planets and telescopes on them. Those were coming down now, replaced by football pennants and beer company logos that Garrett preferred. Emma's hand found mine. She squeezed it tightly. I could not look at her, because I knew if I saw sympathy in her eyes, I might actually break down right there in the entryway. The doorbell rang. My father answered it, greeting a group of men in their mid-20s wearing expensive casual clothes. They were Garrett's friends from his marketing firm. They clapped him on the back, handed him craft beer bottles, and started talking about some campaign they were working on. None of them even glanced at me. More people arrived. All of them Garrett's age, all of them his friends. I recognized a few from his college fraternity. The house filled with strangers, who had no idea it was supposed to be my birthday. Why would they? Nothing indicated that anymore. I walked into the kitchen, trying to find something to do with my hands. My Aunt Dorothy was standing by the punch bowl, looking confused. She was my father's older sister, the only member of my extended family, who had ever treated me like I mattered. She saw me and her face immediately shifted from confusion to anger. She walked over and hugged me tightly. "Happy birthday, Hans," she said loudly enough that a few people nearby turned to look. "This is your party, right?" Before I could answer, my mother called everyone into the living room for a toast. We all gathered, and I found myself pushed to the back of the crowd while Garrett stood front and center next to our parents. My father raised his glass. "We want to thank everyone for coming today to celebrate our boys," he began. Then he spent the next 15 minutes talking about Garrett, his recent promotion to marketing director, his successful campaigns, his leadership qualities, his bright future. I heard my name mentioned once, and of course, Hans is doing well at community college. That was it. 5 words. Then right back to Garrett's accomplishments. Garrett's fiancée Bryn arrived late, apologizing for being stuck in traffic. She kissed Garrett and then gave me a quick hug, wishing me happy birthday in a tone that suggested she did not really understand whose party this was supposed to be. She was nice enough, but she existed in Garrett's world where he was the center of everything. She could not see what was wrong with this picture because from her perspective, nothing was wrong. I had done something small for myself earlier that week. I bought a cake from the grocery store bakery. Nothing fancy. Just a simple chocolate cake with Happy Birthday Hans written in blue icing. I had hidden it in the back of the refrigerator, planning to share it with Emma later. It was silly, but it felt like the one thing today that was actually mine. I excused myself and went to the kitchen. I opened the refrigerator and found the cake box. When I pulled it out and opened it, my stomach dropped. Someone had already cut into it. 3 slices were missing. I walked back into the living room carrying the box and found Garrett's fraternity friends eating pieces of my cake on paper plates. Garrett saw me holding the box and laughed. "Oh man, sorry bro. We needed more dessert and I found that in the fridge. You don't mind sharing, right? Do not be selfish. It is just cake. Just cake. My one thing, and it was just cake." Emma appeared at my elbow. She whispered, "We can leave. Right now. We can just go." But something in me wanted to reclaim even a tiny piece of this day. I was so tired of being invisible. I walked to the front of the room and cleared my throat. A few people looked over. Most kept talking. I raised my voice. "I just want to say something really quick," I said. Some conversations died down. Not all of them. Today is actually my 20th birthday. I know this party has kind of become about Garrett, and that is okay, but I just wanted to thank everyone who came and... My father interrupted me. He literally cut me off mid-sentence. Everyone, I have an announcement." Richard's voice boomed over mine. The room went completely silent. In a way it had, not when I was speaking. Garrett just found out today that he has been promoted to senior marketing director. The youngest person in his company's history to reach that position. The room erupted in cheers. People rushed forward to congratulate Garrett. He accepted the attention with practiced humility, thanking everyone, while my mother cried actual tears of joy. She hugged him so tightly, and I watched her face transform with pure pride. I was still standing there. I had not finished my sentence. Some people had not even noticed I had stopped talking. My voice had simply been erased, replaced by something more important. Aunt Dorothy was staring at my mother with an expression of absolute disgust. Emma took my hand again. This time I let her pull me toward the door. I did not run. I did not make a scene. I just walked calmly to the front door with Emma beside me. My mother's voice called after me from somewhere in the crowd. "Hans, where are you going? Don't be dramatic." I turned around one last time. The party continued behind her. Garrett was surrounded by well-wishers. My father was pouring champagne. Nobody else had noticed I was leaving. "I'm leaving my own birthday party that isn't mine," I said quietly. "I'll see you around." Garrett's voice rose above the noise. "Dude, you're being so sensitive. Come on, stay and celebrate with us." I did not respond. Emma and I walked out the front door, and I heard it close behind us with a soft click that felt impossibly final. Aunt Dorothy caught up to us in the driveway. She was breathing hard, furious in a way I had never seen her. "Hans, I am so sorry. What I just witnessed in there was absolutely unacceptable. You deserve so much better than that." I could not speak. If I opened my mouth, I was afraid of what might come out. Emma answered for me, thanking Dorothy, and promising to take care of me. Dorothy hugged me one more time, told me to call her if I needed anything, and went back inside. Later, she would tell me she gave my parents a piece of her mind before she left. I believed her. Emma drove me to her apartment. We sat on her couch in silence for a long time before I finally found words. I keep thinking maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I should have just stayed and been happy for Garrett. Maybe I'm being selfish. Emma turned to face me fully. "Hans, they took your birthday and gave it to someone else. They cut you off mid-sentence to announce his promotion. That's not normal. That's not okay. You're not overreacting." Over the next week, my parents sent casual text messages. My mother asked what I wanted for dinner on Sunday. My father sent a funny video. Neither of them mentioned the party. Neither of them apologized. It was like the whole thing had never happened. Or worse, like nothing wrong had occurred at all. I did not respond to any of the messages. 2 weeks after my birthday, my phone rang. It was my father. I almost did not answer, but some part of me still hoped maybe he was calling to apologize. I picked up. "Hans, what is going on with you?" His tone was annoyed, not concerned. "You have been ignoring your mother and me. We are worried about you." "Worried about me?" I repeated. "Yes. You walked out of the party for no reason, and now you are giving us the silent treatment like a child. It is immature." I sat down on my bed. "Dad, that party was supposed to be for my birthday. It was for your birthday, and Garrett's. You two were sharing it. That is what families do. They share. You announced his promotion while I was literally in the middle of a sentence." There was a pause. Then my father sighed like I was being deliberately difficult. "Hans, good news does not wait for convenient timing. Garrett achieved something remarkable. We were proud. You should have been proud too, instead of making everything about yourself." "Making everything about myself. On my birthday." "I need some space," I said. "Space from what? Your family? That is ridiculous. I need space. Please respect that." I hung up before he could respond. I sat there staring at my phone, and that was when I saw the email notification. I had been checking my application status obsessively for weeks, but I had forced myself to stop looking every day. Now here it was. An email from the admissions office of a major research university 3 states away. My hands shook as I opened it. "Congratulations, full academic scholarship. Acceptance into their astrophysics program starting in the fall semester. They wanted me. They saw something in me worth investing in. I had applied 6 months ago and told no one. Not my parents, not Garrett, not even Emma at first. I knew if I mentioned it to my family, they would find some way to diminish it. They would compare it to Garrett's achievements, or question why I was leaving community college when it was more affordable. They would make it about themselves somehow. But now I had an acceptance letter and a full scholarship. A way out. Emma came over that evening. I showed her the email, and she screamed with excitement, jumping up and down in my tiny dorm room. When she calmed down, she looked at me seriously. "You are going to take this, right? You are not going to let them talk you out of it?" "I'm not going to tell them until I'm already gone," I said. The words came out with a certainty I had not known I possessed. "I'm going to finish this semester, pack my things, and leave. They don't get to have an opinion about this." Emma nodded slowly. "I think that's smart. I think that's really smart." For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. The next 3 months were the most focused of my life. I threw myself into my coursework with an intensity that surprised even me. I worked extra shifts at the observatory, saving every dollar I could for the move. I researched apartments near the university, mapped out bus routes, planned everything down to the smallest detail. Emma helped me pack during stolen hours, when my parents thought I was studying at the library. Aunt Dorothy was the only family member I told, and she was thrilled. She helped me financially with the deposit on my new apartment and the cost of shipping my belongings. She made me promise to call her once I was settled, and I promised I would. I maintained minimal contact with my parents during those months. Short text responses, excuses for why I could not make it to Sunday dinners. They seemed annoyed, but not particularly concerned. Garrett was dealing with wedding planning stress, which occupied most of their attention anyway. I finished my semester with a perfect 4.0. My professors wrote glowing recommendation letters. Everything was falling into place. The night before I was scheduled to leave, I sat in my empty dorm room with my phone in my hand. I had composed and deleted a dozen different messages to my parents. Finally, I settled on something simple and direct. I typed it out in a group text to my mother, father, and Garrett. I'm transferring to university name. I'm moving tomorrow. I need time away from all of you. Please respect that. I'll reach out when I'm ready. I hit send before I could second guess myself. Then I immediately blocked all 3 of their numbers. My phone buzzed within seconds with calls coming through on Emma's phone. My parents were calling her. She declined every call, and eventually blocked them too. You don't owe them access to you, she said firmly. The next morning, Emma drove me to the airport. We cried together at the gate, but they were strange tears. Sad because I was leaving her, but relieved because I was finally free. She promised to visit during fall break. I promised to call every day. The flight was surreal. I watched my home state disappear beneath the clouds and felt nothing but relief. My new apartment was small, but mine. The university campus was beautiful. My first day of classes felt like stepping into a life I was supposed to be living all along. The astrophysics program was challenging and demanding, and I loved every second of it. I made friends quickly. People who were passionate about science and space and understanding the cosmos. Nobody cared about my family drama or my brother's accomplishments. Nobody compared me to anyone. I was just Hans, the guy who could explain orbital mechanics and genuinely got excited about spectroscopy. I secured a position as a research assistant for a professor studying exoplanet detection. The work was meticulous and sometimes tedious, but it felt meaningful in a way nothing else ever had. Emma visited during fall break, just like she promised. We spent the weekend exploring the city, and she told me I seemed different. Lighter, happier. I realized she was right. The constant weight of trying to earn my parents' approval had lifted, and I had not even noticed how heavy it had been until it was gone. By winter break, I was making Dean's List. My research was going well. I had started to build the kind of life I had only dreamed about. 6 months after I left home, my professor called me into her office. Dr. Helen Zhang was a brilliant woman who had mentored me from day one. She got straight to the point. Hans, I'm recommending you for something extraordinary. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory offers a competitive summer internship for undergraduate students. They take 12 students nationwide. It's incredibly selective. But your work here has been exceptional. I think you have a real shot. I applied that night. The application process was rigorous. Essays, interviews, letters of recommendation, technical assessments. I poured everything I had into it. 3 months later, I received the acceptance email. I had been selected as one of 12 students nationwide to intern at JPL for the summer. I called Emma first, then Aunt Dorothy. Then I posted about it on social media with a simple caption and a photo of my acceptance letter. I rarely use social media anymore, and I had honestly forgotten that I had never blocked my family on that platform. It did not occur to me that they might see it. But they did. Within hours, my email inbox exploded. My parents had found my university email address. Garrett had messaged me on every platform we shared. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of them saying variations of the same thing. My mother, Hans, we are so proud of you. NASA, our son is going to NASA. We need to talk about everything. Please call us. We miss you so much. My father, son, this is incredible news. We should celebrate. When can we visit? We want to see your campus and meet your professors. Let's set up a time to talk. Garrett's messages were different, more subtle in their cruelty. Wow, little brother, NASA internship. Didn't know you had it in you. That's actually pretty impressive. We should catch up. Been too long. Every message felt wrong. They had not cared when I was invisible. Now that I had achieved something visible, something they could brag about, suddenly I mattered again. I deleted every message without responding. Emma called that evening. Your family is losing their minds. Your mom tried to call me from a different number. I didn't answer, but she left a voicemail. She sounds desperate. They saw the NASA post, I said. I figured. What are you going to do? Nothing. Same as before. They don't get to be proud of me now just because it makes them look good. 2 weeks later, Aunt Dorothy called. This time I answered, because she was the one person I trusted. Hans, I need to tell you what's happening here. Your family is falling apart. She explained that Garrett's engagement to Bryn had ended. Bryn had finally seen through his manipulative behavior and left him. He had also been demoted at work after a major campaign he led had failed spectacularly. My parents were devastated watching their golden child struggle. But that was not the worst of it, Dorothy explained. The extended family and family friends had seen my NASA announcement. Everyone was asking my parents about me, congratulating them, wanting to know details about my internship and my research. My parents could not answer any of the questions because they knew nothing about my life. They were embarrassed, humiliated that their own son's achievements were public knowledge and they had been completely shut out. Your mother can't handle it, Dorothy said. She's telling people you're going through a phase. Your father is making excuses about you being busy with school. But everyone can see through it. They know something is wrong. Good, I said. And I meant it. There's something else, Dorothy continued, her voice dropping. Garrett is not handling any of this well. He's posting strange things on social media. Vague posts about ungrateful siblings and fake people. He's bitter, Hans. Really bitter. I thanked Dorothy for the information and promised to stay alert. Then I focused on preparing for my internship. The JPL internship began in June. I moved to Pasadena for the summer, sharing a small apartment with 2 other interns. The work was everything I had hoped for and more. I was assigned to a team analyzing data from the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. Every day I worked with actual NASA scientists on real missions. It was surreal and wonderful. My supervisor, Dr. Patricia Okoye, was impressed with my work ethic. Halfway through the summer, she pulled me aside. You have something special, Hans. Have you thought about graduate school? Because I think you could have a real future in this field. I'd be happy to write you a recommendation when the time comes. I was floating on air for days after that conversation. Then Aunt Dorothy called again. Her voice was shaking. Hans, you need to listen to me carefully. Garrett came to my house yesterday demanding your contact information. When I refused to give it to him, he completely lost it. He was screaming in my driveway about how you ruined his life. He said everyone likes you better now, and it's your fault his life fell apart. My neighbors called the police. They escorted him away, but before he left, he told me he found out which university you attend. Hans, I think he's planning to come find you. He's not stable right now. You need to be careful. My blood went cold. Garrett had always been entitled and self-centered, but I had never considered him dangerous. Now I was not sure. I immediately contacted campus security at my university back east and explained the situation. They noted it in their system. I also told the JPL security office about the potential threat. Everyone took it seriously, which both relieved and terrified me. 3 days later, I found out Garrett had booked a flight. The notification came through a mutual friend who still followed both of us on social media. Garrett had posted a check-in at the airport with the caption, "Time to handle some family business." The friend screenshot it and sent it to Emma, who immediately called me. "He's flying to California," she said, panic clear in her voice. "Hans, he's actually doing this." I called campus security again. They increased patrols around the astrophysics building where I would be returning for fall semester. But I was still at JPL for another 2 weeks, which complicated things. I told Dr. Okoye what was happening. She brought in JPL security, and they created a plan. I was to be escorted to and from my apartment. I was not to walk anywhere alone. If Garrett showed up, I was to immediately contact security and not engage. The waiting was the worst part. I knew he was coming, but I did not know when or where he would show up. It happened 4 days later. I was walking back to my apartment from the JPL campus around 7 in the evening. One of the security officers was supposed to meet me at the gate, but he was running late. I only had about 200 feet to walk across an open parking lot. That was when I saw him. Garrett was standing next to a rental car, watching the building entrance. He looked terrible. His clothes were wrinkled, his hair unwashed. He had lost weight, and there were dark circles under his eyes. When he saw me, his face twisted into something between a smile and a grimace. "Hans," he called out, walking toward me quickly. "Finally, we need to talk." I stopped walking and pulled out my phone, already dialing security. Garrett saw this and his expression darkened. "Really? You're gonna call security on your own brother? What are you doing here, Garrett?" He laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "What am I doing here? That's funny coming from you. You're the one who abandoned the family. You're the one who ran away like a coward. I left because you and Mom and Dad made it clear I didn't matter. Oh, please." He was getting closer, and I took a step back. "You're mad because we shared your birthday party? That's what this is about? You threw away your entire family over one party? It wasn't one party. It was 20 years of being invisible. You're not invisible now, though, are you?" His voice was rising. "Now everyone knows Hans the genius, Hans the NASA intern, Hans the special one. Do you have any idea what it's been like? Do you have any idea how many people ask Mom and Dad about you? How they look at me like I'm the disappointment now? People were starting to notice us. A few JPL employees had stopped to watch. That's not my fault," I said steadily. "I didn't do anything to you. I just lived my life. You made me look bad." He was yelling now. "Everything fell apart after you left. Bryn broke up with me. Work has been terrible. And meanwhile, you're out here playing astronaut and getting all the attention. Garrett, you need to leave. No, you need to come home and fix this. You need to tell everyone that I'm not the bad guy here." He reached out to grab my arm. I jerked back, and that was when security arrived. 2 officers appeared from different directions, moving quickly toward us. "Sir, you need to step away from him," one of them said firmly. Garrett's face went red. He ignored them and lunged for me again. The security officers intercepted him, one of them getting between us, while the other took Garrett's arm. "Get your hands off me. This is my brother. This is a family matter. Sir, you're on federal property and you're being asked to leave. If you don't comply, we'll have to involve the police." Garrett struggled for a moment, then seemed to deflate. He stopped fighting, but continued to stare at me with pure resentment. "This isn't over," he said. "You can't just erase your family." They escorted him off the property. Later, I learned that JPL issued a formal no trespass order. If Garrett came back, he would be arrested. I was shaking when I finally got back to my apartment. My roommates made me tea and sat with me while I called Emma and Aunt Dorothy to tell them what had happened. Both of them were horrified, but relieved that security had been there. That night, I barely slept. I kept replaying the encounter in my mind. The look on Garrett's face. The way he blamed me for his own failures. The entitlement in his voice when he demanded, "I come home and fix things." The next morning, I had an email waiting from my father. The subject line read, "We need to talk now." I opened it, even though I knew I should not. The message was not long, but every word dripped with venom. Richard wrote that Garrett had called him from California, upset and humiliated. My father blamed me for the entire situation. He said I had destroyed the family with my selfishness. That Garrett had needed his brother, and I had abandoned him in his time of need. That my mother was devastated, and my behavior was cruel and unforgivable. The email ended with an ultimatum. If you don't come home immediately and apologize to your brother and fix what you broke, you're no longer our son. You'll be dead to this family. Is that what you want? To lose your family over your pride? I read it twice, and then something strange happened. I felt relief. For years, I had been waiting for them to understand, waiting for an apology, waiting for them to see how they had hurt me, waiting for them to change. This email made it crystal clear that they never would. They would always see Garrett as the victim. They would always see me as the problem. No amount of success or achievement or distance would change their fundamental inability to treat me fairly. And I was finally completely okay with that. I did not need them to understand anymore. I did not need their approval or their pride or their love. I had built a life without them, and that life was good. Better than good. It was exactly what I wanted. I took a screenshot of the email and saved it, Not out of spite, but as a reminder. Then I started typing my response. I wrote carefully, editing several times before I was satisfied. The message needed to be clear, but not cruel. Honest, but not petty. I wanted to say everything that needed to be said, and then close the door permanently. Dad, I've received your email. I want to respond to this once, completely, so that there's no confusion going forward. I didn't destroy this family. This family chose to exclude me long before I left. For 20 years, I watched you and Mom prioritize Garrett over me in every possible way. My achievements were footnotes to his accomplishments. My birthday was something that could be shared or taken away. My presence was optional unless it served Garrett's needs. I didn't abandon Garrett. I removed myself from a toxic situation that was damaging my mental health and my sense of self-worth. That's not abandonment. That's self-preservation. Garrett came to my workplace and tried to physically confront me because he can't handle the fact that I'm successful without the family's involvement. That's not my problem to fix. His jealousy, his career troubles, and his failed relationship are not my responsibility. They're consequences of his own actions and choices. You've given me an ultimatum. Come home and apologize, or I'm no longer your son. I'm not coming home. I'm not apologizing for setting boundaries or building a life that makes me happy. So if that means I'm no longer your son, then I accept that. I wish all of you well. I genuinely do. But I won't be maintaining contact going forward. Please don't try to reach me. I've made my peace with this decision. Hans. I copied Aunt Dorothy on the email so she would know my final decision and would not be caught in the middle. Then I hit send. No, you need to come home and fix this. You need to tell everyone that I'm not the bad guy here. I blocked his email address. Then I blocked my mother's and Garrett's on every remaining platform. I changed my phone number and only gave the new one to Emma, Aunt Dorothy, and a few close friends. The relief was overwhelming. It felt like I had been holding my breath for years and could finally exhale. Dr. Okoye noticed the change in me the next day at work. You seem lighter, she observed. Everything okay? Everything's resolved, I told her. And it was true. I finished my JPL internship with excellent reviews. Dr. Okoye wrote in my evaluation that I showed exceptional promise and maturity. She told me privately that she would be making calls on my behalf when I applied to graduate programs. I flew back to my university in August to start my junior year. Emma was waiting at the baggage claim, and when I saw her, I felt complete. She had stuck by me through everything. She never questioned my decisions or tried to push me back toward my family. She just supported me. We got an apartment together off campus. It was small, and the heating was unreliable, but it was ours. We adopted a cat from the shelter and named him Kepler. Life felt startlingly normal and wonderful. My junior year was intense academically, but I thrived under the pressure. I took advanced courses in orbital mechanics, cosmology, and planetary science. I continued my research assistantship and started working on my own project, analyzing light curves from distant star systems. Aunt Dorothy visited in October. She was proud of how I had handled everything, though she admitted it had created significant tension in the extended family. Some relatives thought I was being too harsh. Others completely understood and had started distancing themselves from my parents after witnessing their behavior. Your mother tells people you're going through a phase, Dorothy said over coffee. She can't accept that this is permanent. Your father doesn't talk about you at all anymore. And Garrett moved back home. He's living in your old bedroom. The news about Garrett should have felt like victory, but it just made me sad. Not for him, but for the waste of it all. He had so many advantages, and he had squandered them by refusing to develop empathy or self-awareness. How are you doing with all of this? Dorothy asked. I'm good, I said, and meant it completely. I'm really, genuinely good. I have Emma. I have friends who care about me. I have work that matters to me. I don't need them anymore. You never needed them, Dorothy said gently. You just thought you did because they're family. But family is supposed to build you up, not tear you down. That conversation stayed with me for weeks. In December, I applied to PhD programs. Dr. Okoye made good on her promise and called colleagues at several top universities. Dr. Zhang wrote me a glowing recommendation. My test scores were excellent, and my research had resulted in a paper that was being prepared for publication. By February, I had acceptance letters from 3 prestigious programs, all offering full funding plus stipends. I chose the program at the same university where I had done my undergraduate work. Dr. Zhang would be my advisor, and I would be continuing the exoplanet research I loved. Emma got accepted to a graduate program at the same university. We would be staying together, building our life in a place that had become home. In March, Aunt Dorothy called with news. "Garrett's in therapy," she said. "Your parents finally convinced him to go after he had some kind of breakdown. I don't know the details, but I thought you'd want to know they're at least trying to address some of the damage." "That's good for him," I said. "I hope he gets the help he needs." And I meant it. I did not wish harm on Garrett. I just no longer felt responsible for his well-being or his choices. "Your mother asks about you sometimes," Dorothy continued carefully. "She wants to know if you're okay. If you're happy." I tell her you're thriving. And she gets this look on her face, like she doesn't believe it's possible without her. She can believe whatever she wants. She's starting to realize what she lost, Hans. I think it's finally hitting her. Maybe. But that's something she has to sit with. I can't fix it for her. Spring semester flew by in a blur of final projects and research deadlines. I successfully defended my undergraduate thesis. Emma and I went to her family's house for a weekend, and her parents treated me like a son. They asked about my research, celebrated my graduate school acceptance, and made me feel valued in ways my own parents never had. I graduated in May with highest honors. Dr. Zhang gave a speech at the Astrophysics Department graduation ceremony and mentioned my research specifically. Aunt Dorothy flew in for the ceremony. Emma's family came too. I wore my cap and gown and felt genuinely proud of what I had accomplished. There was a moment during the ceremony when I looked out at the audience and thought about how my parents were not there, how they would never know about this day unless someone told them. And I felt absolutely nothing about their absence. No sadness, no anger, no longing, just peace. After graduation, Emma and I spent the summer working and saving money. I had a research position that paid decently, and Emma worked at a nonprofit. We went hiking on weekends, hosted dinners for our friends, and planned for the future. In August, we moved into a nicer apartment closer to campus. We painted the walls, hung up artwork, and made it feel like a real adult home. Kepler, the cat, approved of the larger windows. Graduate school started in September, and I loved it immediately. The coursework was challenging but fascinating. My research expanded. I started teaching an introductory astronomy lab for undergraduates, and discovered I enjoyed teaching. Dr. Zhang introduced me to colleagues around the country. I presented at a small conference and received positive feedback. My paper from undergraduate research was published, and I added published author to my CV. Life was good, better than I had ever imagined it could be. October brought cooler weather and a settled routine. I was deep into my first semester of graduate work, spending long nights at the observatory and loving every minute of it. Emma and I had fallen into a comfortable pattern of supporting each other through our respective programs. One Thursday evening, I was at the lab analyzing spectroscopy data when my phone buzzed. It was Dr. Zhang. "Hans, do you have a minute?" I wanted to discuss a potential opportunity. She explained that a colleague at another institution was organizing a multi-university research collaboration, studying potentially habitable exoplanets. They needed a graduate student to help coordinate data analysis across the teams. Dr. Zhang had recommended me. "It would mean some travel for meetings," she said. "But it would give you incredible exposure and connections in the field. Plus, it's exactly the kind of work you're passionate about." I accepted immediately. 2 days later, I was walking across campus toward the library when someone called my name. The voice was familiar in a way that made my stomach drop. I turned around, and there was Garrett, standing about 20 feet away near the Student Union building. He looked different than he had in California. Clean, at least. His clothes were neat, his hair trimmed, but there was something hollow in his eyes that had not been there before. My first instinct was to run, but I was surrounded by other students. Campus security had his information on file. He would not try anything in broad daylight with witnesses everywhere. "What are you doing here?" I asked, keeping my distance. "I came to talk to you." His voice was quiet, almost uncertain. This was not the aggressive Garrett from JPL. I know you don't want to see me. I know I messed everything up, but I needed to try one more time. Garrett, we have nothing to talk about. You need to leave. 5 minutes. Please. Just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I gestured to a bench, visible from several angles. We sat down with significant space between us. I kept my phone in my hand, ready to call security. I've been going to therapy, he started. Twice a week for 6 months now. And my therapist has helped me understand a lot of things I didn't want to see about myself. I said nothing, just waited. I was jealous of you. The words came out like a confession. I know that sounds insane because I got everything growing up, but I was jealous that things came so easily to you. School, friends, relationships. I had to work for everything, and you just naturally excelled. It made me feel inadequate. So you made sure I felt inadequate instead? Yeah. He looked down at his hands, and Mom and Dad enabled it. They saw my insecurity and overcompensated by making everything about me. But that made it worse, because deep down I knew I didn't deserve all that attention. And you did, so I resented you even more. This was the most self-aware I had ever heard my brother sound. But it did not change anything. I'm glad you're in therapy, I said. I'm glad you're working on yourself, but that doesn't undo 20 years of being treated like I was invisible. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not even asking you to be my brother again. I just needed you to know that I understand now what I did to you, what we all did to you. We? Mom and Dad are in family therapy too. It took them a while to agree, but after everything that happened, they couldn't keep pretending nothing was wrong. They're starting to see how badly they messed up. Good for them. Hans, they want to apologize. They want to try to make things right. It's too late for that. Garrett nodded slowly. I figured you'd say that. And I get it. I do. But I needed to try because they're miserable. Mom cries all the time. Dad won't admit it, but he's clearly depressed. They lost you, and they're finally understanding what that means. They didn't lose me. They drove me away. There's a difference. You're right. He stood up, recognizing this conversation was over. I'm sorry for showing up here. I know I'm not supposed to contact you. I just thought maybe if you saw that I was different, that I was trying, it might matter. It doesn't matter, I said, not unkindly. Not because you haven't changed, but because the damage is done. I've built a life without all of you, and it's a good life. I don't need you in it. Something broke in Garrett's expression. His carefully maintained composure cracked, and suddenly he looked lost and desperate. But we're family. That has to mean something. It means you had 20 years to treat me like family. You chose not to. Now I'm choosing not to give you more chances. So that's it? You're just done with all of us forever? Yes. The word hung in the air between us. Garrett stared at me like he was seeing a stranger, which I suppose he was. The little brother who begged for scraps of attention was gone. I had grown into someone who did not need their validation anymore. I'm going to go now, Garrett said quietly. I won't bother you again. But Hans, for what it's worth, I really am proud of what you've accomplished. The NASA internship, graduate school, all of it. You did that without any of us, and that's remarkable. He walked away before I could respond. I watched him go, feeling nothing but a distant sadness for the family we could have been but never were. I called campus security and reported the encounter. They noted it and increased patrols around the astrophysics building for the next few days. But Garrett kept his word. He did not try to contact me again. That evening, I told Emma about the conversation. She listened carefully, then asked, "How do you feel?" "Relieved," I said honestly. He wanted me to feel something. Forgiveness or anger or sadness. But I just felt relieved that it's finally clear to everyone that this is permanent. Do you think he really has changed? Maybe. Probably. But it doesn't matter because I don't want him in my life either way. Change doesn't entitle him to my forgiveness or my time. 3 days after Garrett's visit, I received an email from my mother. The subject line read, "Please read this." I stared at it for a long time before opening it. The message was long, rambling, emotional. Patricia wrote about how sorry she was, how she had failed me as a mother, how she did not understand the depth of the damage until recently. She talked about therapy sessions where she had to confront her favoritism. She said she loved me and missed me and wanted a chance to make things right. The email ended with, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway because you're my son and I love you. Please come home. Please give us a chance to be the family we should have been all along. I saved the email but did not respond. 2 days later, my father sent a similar message. His was shorter, more matter-of-fact, but the sentiment was the same. Apologies, acknowledgement of failures, a request for another chance. I did not respond to his either. Aunt Dorothy called that weekend. They're telling everyone they've reached out to you. They're hoping you'll respond. I'm not going to. I figured. What do you want me to tell them if they ask me? Tell them the truth. That I'm happy, that I'm thriving, and that I've moved on. They can do whatever they need to do to find peace, but it doesn't involve me anymore. They're not going to accept that easily. That's not my problem. Dorothy sighed but did not argue. You've gotten strong, Hans. I'm proud of you. Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. Over the following weeks, my parents sent occasional messages. Never demanding, always apologetic. I archived them all without responding. Eventually, the messages stopped coming. Winter arrived, bringing the kind of cold that made you appreciate warm apartments and hot coffee. I was deep into my research, working with the multi-university collaboration Dr. Zhang had connected me with. The project was exciting and challenging, exactly the kind of work I had dreamed about doing. Emma and I hosted Thanksgiving at our apartment with a group of friends who had become like family. We cooked too much food, played board games, and spent the evening laughing until our sides hurt. Nobody mentioned my biological family, and I was grateful for that. In early December, Dr. Zhang called me into her office with a smile I had learned meant good news. The preliminary results from your data analysis are remarkable. We're looking at 3 potentially habitable planets in systems we hadn't fully explored before. This could be significant, Hans. Significant enough to publish? Significant enough to present at the American Astronomical Society conference in January. I'm submitting the abstract with you as first author. I had to sit down. First author on a major conference presentation, less than 1 semester into graduate school. This was the kind of opportunity that could shape an entire career. Thank you, I managed. Thank you for believing in me. You've earned every opportunity that's come your way, Dr. Zhang said firmly. Your work ethic, your creativity, your analytical skills, they're exceptional. Don't ever doubt that. I left her office, feeling like I was floating. That evening, I took Emma out to celebrate. We went to our favorite small restaurant near campus, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and incredible pasta. Over dinner, I told her about the conference presentation. You're going to be amazing, she said, raising her glass. To my brilliant partner who reaches for the stars and actually touches them. We clinked glasses, and I felt a wave of gratitude for this life we had built together. Christmas came and went peacefully. Emma and I spent it with her family, who continued to welcome me warmly. Her mother gave me a telescope ornament for their tree, with my name on it. For our favorite astronomer, she said with a hug. I thought briefly about my biological family, wondering what they were doing for the holiday. But the thought passed quickly, replaced by appreciation for the people actually surrounding me with love. January brought the conference. I practiced my presentation dozens of times, refining every slide and rehearsing answers to potential questions. Dr. Zhang coached me through it, patient and thorough. The presentation went better than I could have hoped. The room was full, and people asked engaged, thoughtful questions. Several established researchers in the field approached me afterward to discuss the findings and potential collaborations. Dr. Zhang stood at the back of the room, beaming with pride. That evening, I called Aunt Dorothy to tell her how it went. She was thrilled, asking detailed questions about the research, even though she freely admitted most of it went over her head. Your parents saw something about the conference online, she mentioned carefully. They were showing people at church, telling them their son was presenting at a major astronomy conference. They can tell whoever they want, I said. It doesn't involve me. They still hope you'll reach out someday. I know, but I won't. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. I think they're finally starting to accept that. It's been hard for them, realizing they can't fix this. That some things, once broken badly enough, can't be repaired. I'm not broken, though, I said. That's what they don't understand. I'm not broken. I'm free. Spring semester brought new challenges and opportunities. My research expanded, and I took on a teaching assistant position for an upper-level planetary science course. The undergraduate students were bright and curious, reminding me why I loved this field. Emma and I started talking seriously about the future. Graduate school would take several more years, but we were committed to building our life together. We talked about eventually getting married, maybe adopting another cat, buying a house someday. In March, I received an email from an administrator I didn't recognize. The subject line read, "Information regarding your family." My first thought was that something had happened to Aunt Dorothy. I opened the email, with my heart pounding. But it was not about Dorothy. It was from a hospital social worker. Garrett had been in a car accident. He was going to be okay, but he had listed me as an emergency contact. My parents were also contacted, but the social worker was reaching out to all listed family members. I stared at the email for a long time. Then I forwarded it to Aunt Dorothy with a simple message. "Can you handle this?" "I can't," she replied within an hour. "Already on it. Don't worry about anything. He's going to be fine, and I'll make sure he updates his emergency contacts to remove you." That was the last I heard about it. Dorothy later told me Garrett had a concussion and a broken arm, but recovered fully. I felt relief that he was okay, but no desire to be involved. Life continued its forward momentum. I presented at another conference in April, this time with even stronger results. A journal accepted our paper for publication. Dr. Zhang started talking about me potentially defending my thesis early if the research continued at this pace. In May, Emma graduated with her master's degree. I sat in the audience with her family, cheering loudly when her name was called. Her parents took us out for a celebratory dinner, and her father gave a toast about how proud they were of both of us. Later that night, lying in bed, Emma turned to me. "Do you ever wonder what your life would be like if your family had been different?" "Sometimes," I admitted, "but not as much as you'd think. Because if things had been different, I might have stayed close to home. I might not have pushed myself so hard academically. I might not have ended up here with you." So, in a weird way, their failure to be good parents pushed me toward the life I was supposed to have. That's a very generous perspective. It's not generosity. It's just truth. I'm happy. I'm successful. I have people who love me. They don't get credit for any of that. But their absence made space for the right people to come into my life. Summer brought an opportunity I had not expected. Dr. Okoye from JPL reached out about a potential postdoctoral position after I completed my PhD. It was years away, but she wanted me to know the door was open if I was interested. I was interested. Aunt Dorothy visited in July. We spent a weekend showing her around the city, introducing her to our friends, and letting her see the life we had built. On her last evening, we sat on our apartment balcony watching the sunset. "I need to tell you something," Dorothy said. "Your parents have stopped asking about you. They've finally accepted that you're not coming back. How are they doing with that? Your mother struggles more than your father. But they're working through it in therapy. They're trying to be better grandparents to your cousins, trying to repair other relationships they damaged with their favoritism over the years. It's not my place to say whether they've actually changed, but they're at least trying. I'm glad they're working on themselves. Genuinely. But it doesn't change my decision. I know, and I think they finally understand that too. The door being closed isn't temporary, it's permanent, and they're learning to live with the consequences of their choices." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sky turn from orange to purple to dark blue. "Are you happy, Hans?" Dorothy asked. "Really, truly happy?" I thought about my research, my relationship with Emma, the community of friends and colleagues who supported me, the career I was building. I thought about how I woke up every morning without the weight of trying to prove myself to people who would never see me clearly. "Yes," I said, "I'm happy. More than I ever thought possible." Dorothy smiled and squeezed my hand. That's all I needed to know. As summer turned to fall, and I began my second year of graduate school, I reflected on the journey that had brought me here. 2 years ago, I had walked out of my own birthday party feeling invisible and worthless. Now I was a published researcher, a graduate student at a top program, someone with a clear and exciting future ahead. My family's rejection had felt like the end of the world at the time, but it had actually been a beginning. The beginning of building a life on my own terms, surrounded by people who valued me for who I was, rather than how I compared to someone else. I learned that you cannot force people to see your worth. You can only choose to surround yourself with people who already do. I learned that walking away from toxicity is not abandonment. It is survival. I learned that the family you choose can be stronger and more meaningful than the family you are born into. Most importantly, I learned that I did not need my parents' approval to be successful or happy or whole. I already was all of those things, and I always had been. They just could not see it, and that was their loss, not mine. Sometimes people ask me if I think I will ever reconcile with my family. The answer is no. Not because I am holding a grudge, but because I have moved forward and they are part of my past. I do not wish them harm. I hope they find peace and healing. But that healing does not require my participation. I am exactly where I am supposed to be, doing exactly what I am supposed to be doing, with exactly the people who are supposed to be in my life. And that is more than enough. Looking back now, I can see that my 20th birthday party was not the moment my family fell apart. It was just the moment I finally saw clearly what had been true all along. They had never made space for me, and I had spent 2 decades trying to squeeze into a space that did not exist. The real gift I gave myself that day was not walking out of a party. It was walking into my own life, on my own terms, with my own worth intact. I teach my undergraduate students now about the vast distances between stars, about how light travels for years across empty space before reaching us. I tell them that even in the darkest, emptiest regions of space, there is always light somewhere, traveling toward us, waiting to be seen. That is what I found when I left my family. Not darkness, but light. Not emptiness, but fullness. Not loss, but gain. I found myself. And in the end, that was always what mattered most. So what about you? Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship or situation that was supposed to be important, but was actually holding you back? How did you find the courage to choose yourself? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more stories about life's difficult decisions and personal growth, and share this with someone who might need to hear that it is okay to put themselves first. Thank you so much for listening to my story today. I hope it reminded you that you deserve to be seen, valued, and celebrated for exactly who you are. Take care of yourselves, and remember that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk toward the life you deserve, even if it means leaving behind the life others expected you to live.